Alright, let's move off a content focused and talk about plugins, because plugins are going to be how you get a lot of the extra functionality into your site. Plugins are just extra bits and snippets of code that get loaded in alongside your site, and they are often available on WordPress.org in a repository here. But you can also see, if you go to plugins add new, they will give you a search in here, and they're going to promote some of their most famous ones. Here's Jetpack. It is a fairly good one. Here is WP Supercache. It is another fairly good one. I mentioned these both in the plugin overviews, but you can install and search for plugins here for something you need. So let's say you're looking for something to rename the login page, which is a security step that I suggest and often do. You can search for them here, but you also have to be very careful. Look for when they're updated, and then look through all of their information. Loginizer, okay. Automatically this says somebody's trying to sell me something. Get support and pro features. All right. That may or may not be viable, but they're offering a lot of extra stuff here, but they definitely want me to buy something. WPS hide login. Okay, this is looking decent. I don't see anything, but I do see GitHub, so this is probably a community-sourced sort of thing. Or they've at least put the code up here on GitHub so everybody can kind of paw through it and see. That's pretty decent. But I'm also going to want to go look at the reviews and the support. So let's see how many people have said things, and if any of them look like they're just spammers or purchased reviews. If that's, not the case, and it looks like it's a well-received one, it's probably okay. Use at your own risk. But, definitely peruse them and be critical looking at plugins that you install. All right, that being said, I'm going to show you some of the common plugins that I use and what they're used for. This will be a pretty quick overview, but Bad Behavior is a good security plugin that I use that does a lot of different things, allows me to do honeypot tracking to block sites that are automatically on a honeypot, gives me a whitelist and a block list in order to make sure that people can get through or to block known bad spammers. WP Supercache. This is probably one of the best ones that you want for most of your sites. All right. WP Supercache is a caching plugin that makes things run quicker. It often compresses things and it gives up a cache of less dynamic content so your server doesn't have to work as hard. It can be easy as turning it on, but I would always go to advanced and make sure to turn on a couple of options. Use PHP, compress pages, that is something we absolutely want. We do not want to cache pages for known users, that means when you're logged in, or ones with get parameters. And we want to clear all the cache files when a post or page is published, so that removes caching frequently, deletes the cache and recreates it just to make sure users are getting the most constant content. Alright, the other section here is save strings. So if you have an e-commerce, you want to make sure some of the words that are often used constantly, like cart and checkout, are not being cached. You can look up, things like WooCommerce and caching to make sure it works, correctly, or how to kind of optimize it. But you want to make sure it's not interfering with your e-commerce. By and large, it won't, but if you have issues, that's probably one of the things, is that it is caching content. All right. Let's talk about Contact Form 7. This allows you to make contact forms, and it is one of the best ones that is out there. If you have a subscribe to our newsletter, you can go through. You do have to know a little bit of HTML or to set it up, but they have very basic, sort of options here. You can create a new drop-down menu, type in the things you want, insert the tag, and there it inserted a tag, and you can kind of just do some basic HTML to separate and set it up. You can control the mail, who it goes to, copy the fields in, structure the mail, set up the information here, and you can even control messages and do some extra coding. probably won't get into much of that, but it is good if you want to extend. The other thing that I like to do with Contact Form 7 is there's a thing called Contact Form 7 Database that you can install to save everything in here. So even if there's an issue with the mail, it saves the database. Jetpack. Jetpack is a big one that has a lot of options. So let's make sure Jetpack is installed, and we'll activate it. Now, it may not allow me to do this without turning on my WordPress.com. Alright, so I've gone through most of the connection process here, going to my WordPress.com account, because Jetpack requires that. The free one is fine. They offer a premium version, but that doesn't matter. Alright, so now once I've got it connected, there are a ton of features to this. You're going to want to turn off most all of these. You can do a JSON API, which we don't really need to manage your connection. We want to turn off most of this. I'm going to get my site stats through Google, so I don't need their site stats. I don't need their sharing plugin. Publicize is one I do want. Likes is not a bad thing to do. Subscriptions is okay. Yada, 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 yada. Actually, enhanced distribution is a good one. Site verification is not needed. So this is the downside of it. They want to turn on everything. And there's a plugin I use called Jetpack Manual Control, which turns off the automatic turning on of new things. Generally, you just want to turn off most of these when you install Jetpack. But, and I will get into this more, Publicize and sharing are ones you often want, because this allows you to post your content directly to social media, or there's another one that is with widgets that allows you to pull in content from social media and display Twitter on your page, display Facebook, etc. I believe that one, if I'm remembering correctly, is extra sidebar widgets. So those are the two that I would turn on, as well as enhanced distribution, because that puts it out there for other places to find your content easily. It's not a great, like, everybody gets it, and suddenly you're going to be on the front page of Slashdot or Geek and Sundry or anything, but it is an easier way for some sites to find your content. All right. So, Contact Form 7. Another one I tend to use, and I believe I have installed one here, is Google XML Sitemaps. And the reason for that is I do not have it installed on here. But Google XML Sitemaps will automatically create a sitemap of your site, so that Google can pick it up much easier. It allows Google to find the content, so if it's looking for a sci-fi RPG game, it will find that. So it is Google Sitemap Generator. I have the link in the document. Then the other one that I often have is email address encoder that I have there. This just instantly, anytime an email address is put in there, it makes it harder for a bot to read with a little bit of JavaScript. Word fence is another one that I often put in for security, if I'm having security issues with the site. EWW optimizer and Velvet Blue URLs are decent. WP optimized. I don't have any of these on this older site, but these are all in the document. And then another one that I want to show you called WP Mail SMTP. All right, so this is a very good one that, if you are doing a lot of mailing, allows you to send it through an SMTP connection. So if you have a gmail.com that you're using, this allows your site to send everything through that and is a lot more secure. It makes it harder for spam bots to find a contact form and make use of it through injection attacks. I have a bunch of these in the document, so you can look through that and kind of figure them out there and see what ones you like. But plugins are a great way to kind of add a lot of extra stuff, but you do not want to overburden with plugins. And if you find one that's kind of skeevy or is not doing what you want, or is throwing up a lot of messages up here saying, please connect to this, please add into this, I would gauge how much you really need the functionality that plugin provides and get rid of it if you don't. two very common plugins are this one called Revolution Slider, which makes, let's see if we can find any demo content with that, which makes sliders at the top. There may not be demo content, but I'm going to pick on Eloy because I know he has it on his thirdeyegames.net. Revolution Slider is installed here, and it creates a slider of information at the top. It can be addicting to play with it and see how it works. It's going to lazy load in here, but this is an image. These are text elements. This is the background image. They have animations that can be pulling in from the left and the right. Timed, there's a lot of stuff here that can be, very interesting to do a lot of visual appeal. encodeddesigns.com. Spelling it right, encodeddesigns.com. Alright, Encoded Designs also has a slider. A lot of sites have this sort of slider one way or another. You can make a lot of interesting use of it, pulling in stuff. And generally, Revolution Slider is the one that people use for that. You can even do things where when you move your thing around, you can make the little badass bard dance. So, there's a lot of utility there. It is sometimes like using a video editing program, but that is how you generally make use of plugins, install them, and get extra functionality for things.